All right, good evening, everybody. It's your boy Akeen, and welcome to today's vlog. Here to continue with my first round mock draft for the 2014 NFL Draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers controlled the 15th selection, and I think that I have a pretty good idea of where they should go with this selection. But first, let's start off with this team. This team went 8-8 last season, 50%. They had a couple of close losses, which had them edge out of the playoffs last season. But they had a couple of key losses during this offseason, but I think they had an interesting offseason in free agency. Starting with their losses, they no longer have Ryan Clark. He's their safety. He signed with the Washington Redskins on the defensive side, and offensively, they lost their number 2 and their number 3 receiver in Emmanuel Sanders and Jericho Cotchery. Cotchery ended up signing with the Carolina Panthers, while Emmanuel Sanders is now a Denver Bronco. But they had an interesting offseason with their pickups. They picked up a decent wideout, a veteran wideout, and Lance Moore for the New Orleans Saints. He had a couple of decent seasons for the Saints. Actually, back in 2012, he had 105 catches, and I think he can help out that receiving core because of his veterancy and his leadership. I think he could definitely help out the Pittsburgh receiving core. And let's not forget about Antonio Brown, their leading target, Pro Bowler last season. He was definitely will still be that number 1, but Lance Moore could be a decent number 2 unless another player can step it up. Now, sticking with the offensive side, they had a good running back in pickup in LeGarrette Blount for the New England Patriots. I think he has a persona to become a good Pittsburgh Steelers running back, a good power running back along with Le'Veon Bell. Now, as far as fantasy football, I think Le'Veon Bell's numbers might dwindle a little bit. Still think he could become a good flex player or number 2 running back for fantasy football leagues. Le'Veon Bell's still going to get a lot of carries, but I think he's going to dwindle just a little bit because of the addition of LeGarrette Blount. But I think this could become a good power running tandem in the National Football League because I think these are 2 good, well-looked as Pittsburgh Steelers running backs, just like Jerome Bettis years ago. Now, defensively, they picked up a decent safety out of the Carolina Panthers and Mike Mitchell. A little bit skeptical with this one. He did have a good year last season, but I think because he had such a good year, because of it, I think it was a contract year for him, and I think because of that good season, that's why he stepped up last year, and that Carolina defense overall was one of the top defenses in the National Football League. He was a big part of that, but I'm still a little bit skeptical with this one, but I still have to give him a decent grade overall for their off season. Now, what they can use on both sides of the field, starting with the offensive side, even though they signed up Lance Moore, they can still look for a receiver in the later rounds, but I will not forget about Marcus Wheaton. He was a rookie last season coming out of Oregon State. I think he deserves a chance, but I'm still a little worried with this one, but they could also still pick up a good wide receiver in the later rounds of this year's draft because the receiver position, the stock at receiver is tremendous, ridiculous group of receivers for you guys, so they could definitely pick up a good receiver in the later rounds who could probably step it up and be a starting receiver. Sticking on the offensive side, a tight end, Heath Miller is actually entering his 10th season, so they can use a good tight end to work in double tight sets and even replace Heath Miller in the future. Now, defensively, they really need to address the defensive line. This team was 21st in the league last season, averaging 115 yards per game, allowing rushing yards allowed per game, and that's mainly due to the fact of the poor play in the defensive line. They can use a good 3-4 defensive tackle as well as a defensive end. Now, Cameron Haywood did have 5 sacks last season coming out of Ohio State. I think he could become a decent player. Still upcoming, he had an improved year. I will give him a little bit of props, but they can still address the defensive line. Also, they can use a good pass rusher, either at defensive end or at linebacker. Jason Worlds actually was the top returning sack leader with 8 sacks last season, but they can still use Jarvis Jones. Needs to step it up and play like he played back at Georgia in the SEC conference. Hopefully, he can step it up this season and become an improved player. At the cornerback and safety position, they can use a good cornerback because in the safety, Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor are both entering their 12th season. That's a little bit of concern for me. They can need to use a couple of players to replace them in the near future. So they could go either with a cornerback or a safety in this year's draft, and they're definitely looking at Hasheem Clinton-Dix out of Alabama, but I do not think he will be available for this particular selection. Now, who I think they should go with, now Pittsburgh fans, do not suck your teeth just yet. Please just let me explain first. I think they should pick up, this is a reach too. This is a reach. Louis Nicks out of Notre Dame. I think they should pick him up with this selection. Now, yes, he does have some weight issues, and yes, this is a reach. He runs a 5'4" 40, not too well, and he does struggle against double team. But I think because of the leadership and that Pittsburgh persona overall in Pittsburgh, I think he could become a good Steeler. He will be motivated to become a great defensive tackle. I think he has a lot of good skills. I think he can take on these double teams. And the only thing he does need to work on is worry about is his weight, that body fat. He needs to turn everything into muscle and stay in shape. That is a major concern for me. I still think he could deal with double teams in the National Football League at the next level, because back in 2012 when Notre Dame made it to the national championship, he was motivated with the players around him on the defensive side, and he had a good season that year, and he even had a good season this past season, and I think he could still be a good pickup. This is a reach, a little bit of a concern, but I think this a little bit of a risk, but I think they should go with him with this particular selection, because I think between him, Aaron Donald, and Timmy Jernigan out of Florida State, I think he will be the best 3-4 defensive tackle at nose tackle, and I think this will become a good pick. Now, who I think they will pick up with this selection, I think they're going to go with a safe pick on this one. I think they're going to end up picking up Darqueze Dennard out of Michigan State, because some of the key players should be gone by this selection. They're definitely looking at Hasheem Clinton-Dix. They could use a good defensive tackle, and I think the best player available that they should pick up is Louis Nicks, but they could still probably take a risk and go with Timmy Jernigan, or even go with Calvin Pryor, the safety coming out of Louisville. But I think that's a little bit too much of a reach for me at the safety position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they should go with Louis Nicks, but with a clear safe pick, they could go with Darqueze Dennard from Michigan State, and I think that's who they will select with that selection. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys is tomorrow. Going to continue things off with my first round mock draft with pick number 16 belonging to the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you for watching today's vlog. From Pro Football Exclusive, I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.